let's see. I think this is where we had started yesterday, deploying a Hello World React application. And so yesterday we created an application. Let's see. Let's go into webdev and to 2018, and in our summer 2 lectures, we had created this application, right? The client React Genunzi, right? So let's go in there and client. And we had created in the source directory, we had blown everything away, and we had just created this index page, yeah, the index.js. Let's open it up with our favorite IDE, and this is what we had so far. Right? React DOM, render, hello world, document.getElementById, and then we provided a root, the root ID, and this ID referred to a div, an empty div that had the same, that ID. So everything is being injected in there. So if we run this, we can do an npm start. Right? It transpiles all our ES6 JavaScript code onto lower level JavaScript that can be interpreted by our content, by our browsers. If we inspect that, we can look at that indeed we have the div. See that it says ID equal root, right? It's that div I showed you earlier, yes? Which by default, right, it's empty. Right? This file never changes. It changes on the browser, and the browser uses low-level JavaScript, low-level jQuery like commands to inject the content hello world. Make sense? All right, so let's go a little further. So this is the entry point, index.js. So what React does is that it allows us to break up our application into what are called components. Right? So obviously all our content would not go in here. Right? Instead you would build multiple components, and you would build the application from these pieces. So for instance, you could create a brand new component by creating a class, and call it hello world component that extends one of React's way of building components is that inside of this library you have a component class that you can extend. Now I'm a component. You know, what does it mean to be a component? That I can be rendered, right? I can be I have defined now a brand new HTML element, right? Notice that's H1 is an HTML element. You can define your own. I've just defined a brand new hello world element, right? And what does that render? Well, whatever I want it to render. I'm going to override a render function, and whatever I return from this render function is what actually gets rendered. Okay? So I can copy this and say, this is what I want to render. I want to copy that, and so I'm going to return the hello world. Right? That's what I'm returning. So now I can take the hello world, and I can use that as an actual element. Right? Now it can be a brand new tag that didn't exist before, but now I can build tags in terms of other tags. I can create higher level of abstractions, right, that have complex behaviors. Right, it could be an entire form, right, just behind a single element. Notice that it renders exactly the same. I can change this, save it, and then this will render and whatever I return from that return. Make sense? Right? And then I can just break this up so that instead of being declared here, I can move it maybe into a separate file. Well, not here. Maybe I can put it into a file called hello.js. Okay, and I can move my class. I can move my class into a separate JavaScript. Right? And then I can export it. I can say export to a default package, export the hello world, so that I can use it from outside, right? So I can import these smaller blocks, right, and build a larger application, right? So I can go back here. I'll still need this import because I need this library. So I'm going to import this. So if I go to index and I import it, there we go. I can now, instead of having this hello world here, I can throw that away. Notice that it's going to complain, says I can't find hello world. I can't see where it is. Well, I can now import it. I can say import hello world from my brand new hello.js. Right? And now I can see it again, and I can now create multiple of these HTML elements, right, in terms of each other, right, always creating much more complex behaviors, and up until I can actually render the entire application. Yes? Yep.
When you running that render function, is that kind of like saying that this is your HTML?
Yeah. So this particular render function, notice that is part of React DOM, right? This means that behind this render function, there's a lot of JavaScript, right? That knows how to manipulate the DOM. It takes as a second argument, where do you want me to put stuff in? We know how to do that already in jQuery, right? We know we can grab a table body, right? We can grab it with jQuery, and we can inject table rows. We did that. So we know what's behind this, grabbing this ID, right? We also know what we could imagine what's behind this, right? So, okay, you gave me the element that you want to inject, right? You told me where you want me to put it. Okay, what is it that you want me to put in there, right? And in this particular case, it's another JavaScript that comes back with some DOM representation. What is it that it's returning? It's returning the DOM representation of this H1, right? That's what's being returned, and that's what's being injected in here. This creates a obviously creates this level of abstraction that now I can build my application in terms of these brand new elements that I'm creating. Obviously, there's a lot of magic behind that, right? For instance, the fact that we can even have HTML-like syntax without quotes and concatenations, that's already pretty powerful. And again, this gets transpiled into actual strings and actual concatenations, but I'm not doing it. Right? There's a level of abstraction that does this for me underneath. Okay. All right. So that's a hello world. Let's continue. So we installed it. We can create an application. Let's actually deploy this onto Heroku. Let's go back here. Let's do a tab. New tab. Are we in the right place? Yes, we are. We are in the source directory. Let's see. Do we have a Git repository? We do not have a Git repository. We do have a .gitignore. See that? But this is not a Git repository. Notice that there's no .git. Right? So it's not a Git repository. So let's initialize this as a Git repository. We can say git init. So this gets initialized. Let's do a get status. That it says that we have a README, we have a couple package files, the public directory source, we have a gitignore idea. We don't want idea in there, so let's add that to our gitignore. Let's go back to gitignore and let's add idea so that it's ignored as well. So let's do a git status again. It's still there. Maybe, wait, yes, I do want. So let's say .idea. I do not want idea. Okay, so we do not have git idea. I don't want idea at VSC. Why is that in there? Git remove dot idea. Are we in the right place? So I want to remove git remove dot idea. VSC, VSCS.xml. Am I misspelling it? Git rm dot. Oh, okay. I misspelled it. Sorry. So what is a VC? Okay, remove that. I do not want to track that. Oh, do I need to force it? Okay. All right, excellent. So we got what we need. So we got our git ignore, our readme. All of this I do want on in my repository. Notice that we don't have the node modules is not going in there. Right, that's a huge directory. You do not want that in your source control. Okay, this directory will be recreated from package.json. You don't have to add that. So let's do a git add everything. What else do we need to do? And we're going to commit and say that we've just committed create a hello world. And now we're going to create a brand new Heroku application. Right? Credentials. Okay. Email. Yes, that is the email. Password. All right, make sure that I don't type this. And again, like I did last time. Do I remember? Yes. Okay. All right. So it created a Heroku repository ready for us to push. So let's push this. As it pushes, it notices that there is a package.json. It says, "Ooh, it's a package.json. It must be a Node.js application." Right? As opposed to when we did our Spring Boot, right? It saw that it was a POM file and it says, "Ooh, this must be a Java application." Okay, so it automatically decides to use one server or another server, one type of application or another. Okay, notice that it's running Node here, Node lib. The build succeeded, and it's ready for us to push. We just pushed the content, and we can open it up, open the remote server. Heroku open, and then opens our intense forest. There it is. There's our hello world 1, 2, 3 React application running on Heroku. Yes? Okay. So again, you would also create a GitHub repository as an origin, and push the source code to your GitHub repository. But when you want to deploy, you would push to the Heroku remote. Yes. You could do that, surely, yeah. So you can link your Heroku so that instead of pulling from its own Heroku repository, you can point it to your GitHub repository instead. So that every time you push to your GitHub repository, it also compiles and deploys to your remote server. So you certainly could do that, yeah. All right, excellent. Let's see. Let's keep going. We have an application. We created a component. We loaded it, and now we can we put it in a separate file, and then we loaded it. We imported it, and then we used it from within the render. Okay. All right. We're good. Let's keep going.